I never wait for my hair to dry for these videos. I'm always too impatient. Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for October 18th through 24th. This week I read 2 books, I watched 3 shows, I watched 3 movies, and I listened to 1 book. First this week I read Like Never and Always, which has such an interesting premise and it makes it really hard to talk about this book. Going into this book I knew it was a dark contemporary YA that had something to do with a car crash, and that's just skimming the surface. At the very beginning of this book, 4 people are in a car together. One is our protagonist, then we have her best friend, we have our protagonist's boyfriend, and our protagonist's boyfriend's brother who is also dating the best friend. They get into a car crash and when our protagonist wakes up, she's in the body of her best friend. Her body has passed away, she's been in a coma for about a week, so it's in the ground now. Everybody else survived, but obviously everybody is mourning her. Now she's stuck in this situation where she wants to go home, but she can't. She's mourning her best friend because she's not around anymore. And she comes to realize that her best friend had some secrets and she needs to figure out how to navigate those. As you can probably guess, this is very twisty and turny. It has a lot of different emotions because she's watching her boyfriend mourn her, but then also her body was in a relationship with his brother, so that's a love triangle I never thought I'd see. Super weird premise. It had a lot going on, but I really enjoyed it. The other book I finished reading this week is The Killing Moon by N.K. Jemisin. This is the first in a duology, and it took me a little while to get into this world, which made it seem to go by really slowly, which gave me some anxiety because it's 400 pages, its sequel is 500 pages, I need to complete both of them by the end of this month. However, I eventually did hit my stride with this book and ended up really enjoying it, and then went right into the second book, which I'm reading right now. This book takes place in a fantasy adaptation of ancient Egypt, and it has to do with these whole different types of people, but specifically these people called gatherers who gather something called dream blood from people. This book is very political with a lot of strategy, and that's not usually my thing, which is probably also why it took me a little while to get into this, but by the time I got to the end of it I was really attached to the characters, and it was very strange to go from those characters to the characters in the second book, which I'll talk about next week. I think that Jemisin was purposely vague at the beginning of this book as to why this substance is collected and how exactly it is used, because if we were given too much information, we probably would have understood a little bit more of what was happening behind the scenes in that system, which is obviously something that is revealed later in the book. The last week of this month is going to be very busy for me, so fingers crossed that I finish the second book before the end of the month. Out of the shows we watched, we continued watching Fargo. We only have a couple more episodes to go in the first season, and it's going great. Since I haven't really looked into the structures of the other seasons, I have no idea if this assumption is correct, but I think that this season has the most to do with the movie, which is what I was familiar with, although it's definitely not a direct adaptation or anything like that. There's just hints to things that happened in the movie, and it's interesting to see those play out, especially because I haven't seen the movie for a very long time. We also finished the 3rd season of Man in the High Castle, and wow, things happened. Obviously I can't tell you about them because, wow, spoilers. Yeah, there's a lot of things to have emotions about, basically, is what I can say. And then in an attempt to just calm down, we watched a bunch more episodes of New Girl. We love comedies for that. They just calm us down. We don't have weird dreams afterwards, unlike some of the movies that we watched. First movie we watched this week was Sleepy Hollow. I haven't seen this in so long, so it was really fun to revisit. This is the story, of course, of Ichabod Crane, who has gone to Sleepy Hollow to solve these murders. Basically, this movie starts out the same way that Hot Fuzz starts out, in which there is a detective and he's making everybody look bad, so they send him to a small village. At least that's the joke I made while we were watching it. He's convinced this is all scientific, and then we come to realize that no, it's supernatural, and that's weird. When I watched this as a kid, I didn't know who Miranda Richardson was, so I was super excited to see her in this film. And also, I think I'm going to have to rewatch this and make a drinking game out of drinking every time somebody faints, because I think that happened at least 8 times, and 6 of them were Johnny Depp's character. This week we also watched World War Z, which I had never seen before. I had read the book, and obviously they are very different things. However, I can see why this was an incredibly popular zombie flick when it was made. Apparently it is the highest grossing film that Brad Pitt has ever been in. It's also maybe not the best thing to watch during a pandemic because it has to do with people being bitten and turning into zombies within 10 minutes and the population being decimated and the whole world just going to shit. So, you know, watch at your own risk. And again, to calm ourselves down, we watched Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, which is a very good time up until about the 3/4 mark before you get to all the transphobic bullshit. If you've never seen this film before, Jim Carrey plays a character named Ace Ventura who is a pet detective. His job is to find pets that have gone missing or been stolen. He's incredibly obnoxious but very smart, much like a Sherlock character, but a lot more flailing and Jim Carrey-esque stylings. And then of course all of the transphobia that happens at the end of this film, which is just such a shame. The book I listened to this week was The Jumbies by Tracy Baptiste. This is the group book for the Black SFF-a-thon, and I really enjoyed this. This is a middle grade book about these characters that live, I believe, on Trinidad. I'm assuming it was Trinidad, based on what I listened to in the author's notes at the end. And this girl lives in a village with her father, and her mother passed away many years ago, but he has kept her memory alive by constantly telling his daughter about her. And we start with her having to run into the forest because some boys have tied a necklace of her mother's onto an animal and she needs to retrieve it. Of course, being in the forest gets her the willies because it is believed that that's where Jumbies are. Jumbies are supernatural creatures, basically the stuff of nightmares, and you don't want to cross them. This was a lot of fun. It's also the first, I believe, in a trilogy, and I think I'm going to have to listen to the other books as well if my library has them. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link to that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to send me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!